I thought the president failed to deliver a plan for jobs for South Africans. I thought if you were one of the 8.3 million South Africans who are without work, you'd walk out tonight without any concise plan. He certainly didn't announce any decisive plans around budget cuts. The president mentioned the fact that he wants to cut travel, he wants to cut food. Those are not substantive. If we want to change this economy around, we need to take bold decisions, and I thought the speech lacked any plan to address the issues of the economy. Furthermore, I thought that there was no real direct mention on issues of basic educations. I think the fact of the matter is that we've seen a decline in the quality of the pass rate. So overall, this was a speech about repeating old plans without anything new substantively to change the fortunes of the people of this country.
What would you have liked to hear him say, though? Because you're saying there's no overall plan. What are some of the key issues that you would have liked him to have said?
The massive budget cut, an item, would have been to downsize the size of cabinet. Make it half of it, you'd say 4.2 billion rands. Immediately you would put that stimulus into higher education learning for South Africans. I think on basic services, the president pretty much lamented to say, look, we've heard that in Maraba Stad there are problems. He should have been more bolder about saying we need to ensure that basic services are delivered. On police, we keep talking about back to basics. We need safety. We need to fill the vacancies of police that are not there. On jobs, I think that he hasn't mentioned the drought. The reality of the matter is that many more South Africans are facing a drought. Should have announced it as a national disaster plan and put a plan on the table. On many of the economic plans about manufacturing and ensuring that manufacturing gets the appropriate stimulus that it requires to ensure that we create the requisite jobs. I think it was more of the same, nothing new, and no hope for South Africans.
All right, Mmusi Maimane, thanks very much for joining us. We really do appreciate
Much
it.
appreciated.
That was Mmusi Maimane. Let me now cross you to my colleague.
An impeachment, would you? Sorry, man. Would you join him in that? Would you support them?
I have already, since late last year, announced a motion of no confidence against President Zuma. The work that I'm doing now is meeting with various people, even across the benches of the ANC, to ensure that motion succeeds. And we'll mature that motion to make sure that it becomes a question of impeachment. So we've already begun the process. I think the AFF are coming second to the party.
Follow-up question. You say you have support from within the ANC?
We are working with people from across the spectrum because we all recognize that it's time now that we put South Africa first and rather not be stuck in our own party political sections.
Do you think the way that your MPs were heckling Mr. Zuma after the AFF walked out was appropriate?
No, I thought that it's part of political debate. I think that any South African is entitled to make remarks. I've said it before. President Zuma's biggest announcement tonight should have been his resignation, and he failed to deliver on that.
What's the quality of the politics like this evening? Were you disappointed? Things that you would like to have heard that you didn't hear this evening?
Absolutely. I thought the plan around jobs was weak. I think it was more of the same. It was more announcements from old plans. He mentioned the 9-point plan. Should have been a lot braver. Should have been braver on how we reduce the cost of cabinet. It's too big. We should have made it half. We would have had a 4.2 billion rand savings. That money can be attracted towards higher education. Should have been much bolder on how we deal with issues like manufacturing. I think the president simply said more of the same and no decisive actions. On terms of balancing our budget, I thought the president went out of his way to mention things like cutting food, etc., etc. It should have been much bolder, much more decisive. It was more of the same. If I was one of the 8.3 million South Africans out there who are without work, I think they would be sitting at home not realizing any plan from the president.
Does South Africa face